Welcome to Parcel Fair 101. This is going to be your key to unlocking hidden real estate markets. And to really cut to the chase and not waste any time, I could just tell you that Parcel Fair unlocks hidden real estate markets, including tax liens and tax deeds, foreclosure auctions, resellers that are trying to sell tax deeds and tax liens aftermarket, and even special purchasing programs like land banks or city organizations that are selling properties as well. And these are all sourced from dozens of states and hundreds of counties, thousands of auctions and over-the-counter inventories, and is spanning over 1 million properties now. And these numbers are growing as we add more states, more markets, and inventories across the nation. Parcel Fair puts all of this information at your fingertips to instantly search, filter, research, and guide you through how to buy these properties. So with all that, you could just take my word for it, but since these are really tall claims, you probably want to see it in action. So keep watching if you want to see how to put Parcel Fair to work for you. So now that you know what Parcel Fair is at a high level, let's talk about life without Parcel Fair. As a tax investor, you have to search county by county, city by city, and across states for different tax property lists or foreclosure lists. These are either auctions or over-the-counter or tax liens, deeds, surpluses, foreclosures, whatever you may be looking for, and you have to go see what each county has to offer. Then you take that list, kind of like these lists on the screen right now, and you have to go property by property and do your research using slow, inconsistent county searches, all while time is working against you because other investors are buying off these same lists, taking the properties out from under you. Maybe the auction is just a few weeks away and there could be like 20,000 properties or more in the auction. So you don't have time to do all that, and unless you have an army of researchers, it's all a guessing game. You can only research part of the list, and anything valuable in the list beyond that part is going to be lost to other investors, or it doesn't even get purchased at all because nobody finds it. So looking at these lists, you have to be asking yourself, wouldn't it be great if someone would just go through all this for me? Look at the different lists, go through the different formats, all the various county searches, GIS maps, property records, and just show me the properties in these lists so I don't have to look at this anymore. And that's exactly what we thought when we started Parcel Fair. So, I want to show you a sample here of what Parcel Fair can do in an auction setting. To thoroughly research an auction, you really have to research in bulk, meaning out of those thousands of auction properties, you want to eliminate the noise. And as investors, we don't have time to do deep research by hand on 30,000 properties in just a few weeks. So let's first go wide instead of deep and narrow down the number of properties we're considering buying. So this on screen is a current tax lien auction in Florida for Broward County. It's the largest one so far this year. There's still auctions being released, but this one clocks in around 30,000 parcels. And so I'm viewing all of these properties at once on the map. It's a bit overwhelming. Can be useful just to eyeball the areas I'm interested in, but I need to cut this number down to be effective here. So the real power kicks in when I can filter based on what I'm looking for. So I'm looking at, again, Florida, Broward County, and we're going to be looking at, for my particular strategy, let's say that we want properties that have a structure of a value at least $200,000 to $300,000. So I have chosen to filter to only improvements, that's land with improvements on it or structures, and I'm filtering only between $200,000 and $300,000. And instead of 29,000 properties, I'm down to 3,474 properties. So it took a massive chunk, about 90% of the properties out of my view. So now I can actually go back to the search filters and go even further if I want to filter even more. So let's jump from Florida and let's go see Alabama. This is an aerial view of the properties in hidden markets for Birmingham, Alabama, and it's all of the ways that Parcel Fair knows how to buy. So you're seeing a mixture of auction properties that have the yellow outlines. You have over-the-counter tax deeds that have a blue outline. And we even have a mixture of over-the-counter tax certificates in green. And in that mix, we've also got reseller listings as well as properties available from the Birmingham Land Bank. It's a local city organization that sells properties. And so we've got all these ways to buy, 22,000 parcels. So let's try and come up with another strategy here that takes advantage of the Alabama system. So let's take a strategy that looks at these over-the-counter tax deeds that have a structure. So over-the-counter with a structure, we select improvements. And let's look at tax deeds only, because we want to take advantage of that law in Alabama that takes a tax deed, allows me to take possession, and then make improvements on these houses. And so I'm going to go one step further in this search, and I'm going to select vacant only. So we are just going to look at vacant properties that meet those same criteria. And we went from 22,000 down to 1,100 parcels. A much more manageable number for me to actually go research. Now I can actually hone in on those properties and drill in to analyze the ones that I want to pursue. And if I open the details on one of those properties, I get a screen like this with a full report with all that research that I would have had to do by hand to understand what's going on with this property. And so at a glance, I can quickly tell we've got the acreage, the years of tax delinquency, zoning, square footage, beds and baths. And then moving to the right, I'm going to see that I've got these valuations and the amount of taxes due in a single year, the land value, the improvements value, and the total value. And followed by the fact that this property is vacant. On the right, I have a Google Street View and a panorama view and a satellite view, so I can get a first-hand look at least of what Google has to show. And now, moving to the bottom right, I can really go deep on these properties by using the research links that take me straight to the Jefferson Birmingham Property Tax Commissioner for this property. I can see things like the payoff worksheet for taxes due, there's sales info, information about the land, and then a property summary. Anytime you want to do deep research on a property, it's still good to go to those resources, but these links in the research links block are curated specifically for each county, each market, and each property so that you don't have to go search for these cold. Moving to the left, I can see that the owner's address is actually different from the parcel's address. And then in the purchase options just above that, I can see that there are at least, Parcel Fair knows two ways to buy this property. So the first one is going to be with the Birmingham Land Bank Authority, and the second one with the Alabama Department of Revenue. Now, if I were to click on the Birmingham Land Bank Authority, I get specific instructions on how to purchase this property, plus a link directly to the application for this property itself. So the research not only showed me about the property, but it takes me through the steps on how to buy it from the Land Bank Authority. On the other hand, if I clicked on the Alabama Department of Revenue, the other purchase option, I get a different set of instructions, since it's an entirely different way to purchase, and a different link to a different application if this is the way I prefer to purchase it. So it's going to save you a lot of time, not just in researching the property, but finding out how in the world do I buy the tax lien, the deed, or in this case, maybe even the quiet title on this property. So I know we're moving quick, but we're going to jump into Indiana. Another interesting investment strategy in a very appealing county auction would be looking for rental properties in Lake County, Indiana. So this auction has roughly 9,000 properties. And so let's go narrow things down a bit. So for this strategy to look for rental properties, let's filter by improvements like we've been doing so far. We're going to say value of 20,000 to 100,000. Understanding your market is important to know what kind of house that will get you. In this market, I'm looking for small rental properties in that range. And then we're going to make things interesting on this one and limit to only properties where the owner has a different address. This suggests that the owner lives somewhere else and that it might already be a rental property or at least a second home or something that does not have the owner living in it. So, after running that search, we're taken from 9,000 parcels down to 274. And again, we can start to click through the properties and see these little previews and choose a property. And now that we're getting serious about properties, this is a consistent format to the report we saw earlier. We've traversed across states, across markets, different inventory altogether, but we have this consistent formatted report for us to get used to and understand. So now that we're serious about this property, let's look at ways that Parcel Fair can help you track your research so that you don't lose it. It's common for you to step away from the computer and not remember what properties you were researching. So at the very least, I can click this button and add this to my favorites. That's just enough for me to come back and find it later. But that's just the start for tracking your research in Parcel Fair. If you scroll down the page, you'll notice a section called My Lists. And so in the My List, you can add properties to your custom list, whatever you want them to be. It could be your shopping cart, it could be a list of properties you just want to track over time and see where they land. Now you can see My Notes is the section right below that. This is where you could just write whatever you want. You could write a note on the property that a tree fell on the roof or the roof just needs work. Maybe there's squatters in the building, or on a positive note, you might just want to say it's a great property ready to use. If you have photos or documents or anything that's a file that you want to track on this property, you can attach them under the My Attachments section. And this is great, again, for photos, but also if you have PDFs or maybe the deed itself, you can photograph documents, scan documents. You might get different documents from the county even when you purchase. And this is a great place to put all those documents digitized in one place, and you can track it for years and not have to lose your files elsewhere. And lastly, in a few states that you get price quotes or have to fill out applications, you can actually track those price quotes and your history here. This is mainly Alabama, states like that, Mississippi maybe, but it's sort of niche for a few markets. So let's move on to another strategy. Here's another one that's just going to save you so much time. We're going to use Arizona for our example. Arizona has a large over-the-counter tax lien market. Their tax auction season just ended a few weeks ago, and thousands of new over-the-counter properties were just added in recent weeks. Again, over 40,000, almost 42,000 available right now. So for this strategy, we're looking at all the properties in the entire state right now, and I want to see over-the-counter tax liens for land with at least 25 acres. And we've been moving through these examples really quickly, so this time I want to show you this strategy live in real time so you can see Parcel Fair at work. So this is the same search, I just have a satellite view on the map instead. And we're browsing through those 42,000 properties. This is Phoenix, that area. We can go up here and see just more rural areas, more towards Nevada. Maybe we want to zoom in and just take a peek at some of these properties, so you can literally just zoom in with the satellite view and do this. Get as close as you want. And on the right hand side, we can actually scroll through this little film strip of previews and get an idea of what properties are available. So for this strategy, remember what we're going to do is we're going to look for over-the-counter vacant land, and we want to have an acreage of at least 25. We'll leave everything else blank across all counties in Arizona. And now let's see what happens. We just went from 42,000 parcels down to 132. So we eliminated almost all the properties, and now we can focus on just what we care about. On the right side, I can preview and click Find on Map. That is a crazy looking map property here. And just moving along, we can find something. You can spot that this may be more rural, out away from the city. It looks like another example of that here. And now we're really burning through this list to find what's important to us and what fits our strategy. So that's not the only time saver. Really, what we want to look at here is Parcel Fair can also save you time when you're looking across auctions, and specifically the auction calendar. So let's take a look at New Jersey, and we can switch between states pretty quickly, but right now, actually these are the states that have upcoming auctions in this list. Hopefully by the time you see this video, there will be more states in here. We're adding them all the time. But let's look at the month of May, and why don't we just jump into an auction? We'll just say Glassboro. We can either view all the properties available or just the properties in this one auction. So let's do just the properties in this one auction and see what comes up. So now we have loaded the auction on screen, and we're getting this view. We're not having to look at a PDF or a list or a spreadsheet. We're actually viewing it on a map with the details and the previews on the right-hand side. And so for our last example, I want to show you a look at Maryland, and specifically the Baltimore City market. So it's a market with several different options in play as far as how you can buy. We have an upcoming tax lien auction next week. We have over-the-counter tax liens that are in green. The auction's in yellow. Over-the-counter are in green. And then we have a city purchasing program unique to Baltimore City. It's called Buy Baltimore. And this is a program that helps investors acquire quiet title on distressed properties. So right now we're looking at all three of those inventories at once. And you can see it's pretty dense. There's 11,000 properties right now. And it can be overwhelming to see this much on a map at once. So why don't we limit things down a little bit? And what we can actually do is underneath inventories, you can see right now we're seeing all inventories. We could look at just the over-the-counter liens or just the Buy Baltimore program. So start with the over-the-counter liens. So we have 1,900 over-the-counter. Now let's switch over and look at Buy Baltimore. So Buy Baltimore has 1,641. And we can even combine this with those other searches we were just talking about. We can try the valuation, the acreage, the occupancy, the owner location. And whatever combination of those filters fits your strategy, that could work for you. So one last finishing touch. This is not a search filter, but we can actually draw the opportunity zones and see which properties on the map are going to get that investment tax benefit of being inside an opportunity zone. So you see the yellow shading, we literally have properties across the street from each other where this property on the left side is in the opportunity zone and the property on the right side is outside of the opportunity zone. So that helps you really understand if you have that tax benefit without having to go any deeper, really. So in closing, why Parcel Fair? And it doesn't just save hours or days or years. It actually saves you lifetimes. It performs over 200 years of worth of manual research hours every week. So that's roughly 3 lifetimes on average just to perform 1 week of research. So you really need to have something to get through your auctions and get through your over-the-counter inventories that will help you through the property research, that will save you the time and guide you through the purchase process. So at this point, if you'd like to try Parcel Fair, we do have a limited feature free trial that you can sign up for. There's a link in the description. And we have many other videos about specific markets, and those videos will take you step by step through using the software if you want to check those out before you try it. So we'd love to have the chance to work with you on your real estate investing research and building your strategies and essentially buying your properties. So give us a shout in the comments or on our website, and we'll get started. Thanks for watching.